Welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 250,000 subscribers. So if you like what you hear, and I think you should, share with a friend and hit the subscribe button. And make sure you watch to the end because the reactions are all important. So I want to talk now about yesterday. Something really big happened. President Biden decided, despite all of the statements made by everybody early on that he would never do it, he pardoned his son, Hunter Biden. Now, I want to show you part of Biden's statement, okay? First part, saying, "Today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently." By the way, wait for my reaction because that's what happened to me. Now, the charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Then, a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the Department of Justice unraveled in the courtroom, with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's case. Next part. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. Now, let me be very clear about something. There's so much in there that if you took out the name Hunter Biden and you inserted Michael Cohen, you should come to the same decision. I have never in my life filed a late tax return. I have never not paid my taxes. All right, there was an error. There was an error by my CPA, by my accountant, who I had for years, made a mistake. And instead of sending me a letter like every other American would get, mine, on a Friday at 5:30 p.m., you either come in on Monday and plead guilty or we file an 80-page indictment against your wife. Now, got to tell you, got a little bit of an issue with the fact that he should have come out earlier and said, as a father, because everyone would understand this, and I believe every single father out there would do that for their child, turn around and say, my son has battled some massive addiction and he is clean and I am proud of him. And yes, he screwed up. I understand that. But under no circumstance am I going to allow him in order to become, let's just say, the butt of this scenario as a result of me becoming president of the United States. But here's the problem. It opens up now the opportunity for Republicans, for Donald Trump to do what he has said from day number one that he intends to do. And that's to pardon all of the January 6th insurrectionists. Oh, I'm sorry, hostages, as he describes them. So whatever the adjective that you want to use to describe him, Donald Trump was at least honest when he said that he is going to pardon these individuals. Now, again, we have to wait and see whether or not he actually does this. But I wish that Joe Biden, and we would have all turned around and come to the same conclusion now. Enough is enough. Family is off limits. Stop. And I'm not going to allow my son to get pushed back into the regressive situation that he was in. And as a father and as the president of the United States, he will pay back his penalties. He will pay the fine. He will pay back the tax amount. But you're not going to put him in jail for something that only Michael Cohen has been held accountable for. Only me. First time offender ever. Never asked for an extension. No overseas businesses, no overseas nominees. It's not cash. Everything was in Capital One Bank, which, by the way, by coinky dink, was located at the base of the fucking building that I live in, which is a Trump building. So look, I want to sort of give you the opposite belief, okay? And I want to show you, for example, what Representative Jasmine Crockett had to say about the pardon. Play the clip.
Well, I won't pretend to speak for the entire caucus, but I will say, way to go, Joe. Let me be the first one to congratulate the president for deciding to do this, because at the end of the day, we know that we have a 34-count convicted felon that is about to walk into the White House. So for anyone that wants to clutch their pearls now because he decided that he was going to pardon his son, I would say take a look in the mirror, because we also know that when it comes to this cabinet has more people accused of sexual assault than any incoming cabinet probably ever in the history of America. So we are living in unprecedented times, and we know that this was completely political. As someone who serves on the oversight committee, this was gamesmanship the entire time. And
like I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I happen to think that Jasmine Crockett is phenomenal. I love when she's talking because she goes right for the jugular. But again, now you cannot equate, for example, what's going on with Pete Hegseth or with some of the other nominees like the Matt Gaetz nomination to what's going on here with Joe and Hunter Biden. I say he should have done this earlier. He shouldn't have played the political game. He should have turned around and said, I'm the president of the United States. And as far as I'm concerned, what's going on with my son is wrong. And I'm not going to allow it. Very much like I think that they should turn around and be talking about Michael Cohen. Why? Why? A guy who has, again, never in his entire life not paid his taxes. I paid millions and millions in taxes over the years. And I've never filed for a late tax return until 2017. First time offender. Who gets a 6-year sentence? Politically motivated. Now, I want to also show you what Jill Wine-Banks, a friend of mine, former Watergate prosecutor, had to say about the pardon as well. Play that clip.
Okay, Jill, let me start with you. Your initial reactions or your reaction to President Biden pardoning his son.
I am relieved and thrilled that he did it. I think this was one of those cases that called out for clemency. Hunter Biden, first of all, would not have ever been prosecuted for the gun crime, but for his last name. Second of all, he was addicted, and that was a cause of his actions. He has now been sober for many years, and this is a time when it is really appropriate for a grant of clemency.
You see, and as I said before, when I was discussing Congresswoman Crockett's response, would have been the same exact response. And one would have to expect that if the shoe was on the other foot, Trump would do that for any of his children as well. He should have. And as far as I'm concerned, Joe Biden should have done this earlier. It's the right move. Enough is enough. This usage of the Department of Justice, including like what Judge Alvin K. Hellerstein turned around and said when they unconstitutionally remanded me back to prison because I refused to waive my First Amendment constitutional right off of a counterfeit document, when he said that the actions of Bill Barr and Donald Trump's administration were retaliatory and unconstitutional. My friends, this is why right now there's such a divide in this country. If I turn around and I showed you a bunch of clips from Fox News or from Newsmax or OAN, it would, of course, be contradictory to what you heard from Jasmine Crockett and from Jill Wine-Banks. We're so divided. And it's enough right now. The usage of the Department of Justice to go after individuals, whether it's retaliation, whether it's retribution, whether it's for anything. If you commit a crime, then you should be prosecuted. As we all know, Hunter Biden was due for sentencing this month. So Joe Biden did what he needed to do to protect his family, as I'm certain anybody would. And it's with that I turn around and I say, it is so important that all this bullshit stop. One of the reasons that I constantly fight as hard as I do is because the unconstitutional remand of me, I took it to the Supreme Court via a writ of certiorari. They refused to hear it. How? How? The first and only political prisoner held by his own country, the United States of America, because I refused to waive my First Amendment constitutional right, and they didn't want to hear this case? How? Why? The political horseshit that I have dealt with, nobody knows it better than I. And I actually applaud Joe Biden for doing this. I would have liked him to have done it earlier. He didn't. Okay. I think it's the right move. I do think it opens up the door for Donald Trump to do what he has said continuously at just about every single rally that he intends to do with the January 6th insurrectionists, hostages, whatever you want to call them. And nobody will be able to then turn around and say that he shouldn't do it because he's doing exactly what he said that he was going to do. And that opens up again more floodgate for more vitriolic rhetoric against one another, Republican versus Democrat, Democrat versus Republican. Let's just hope that over the course of the next 4 years, once Trump is inaugurated, that all this bullshit comes to an end, that we all decide that we're all Americans like the way that we all behaved after 9/11. It's enough. Trust me, I know. As somebody who's the victim of the over-prosecution, not because my last name is Trump, but because of my affiliation to him. And with that, I want to say again, thanks for listening. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.